and welcome, my fellow nerds. Apparently, I'm no longer allowed to call you all sacks of mostly water or my little baby birds. How unfortunate. You've stumbled across or come here intentionally. Woo! This week, I'm Learning, the podcast where a group of friends comes on to briefly discuss a topic near and dear to their hearts that may or may not have been lightly researched. This is episode 54, recorded August 2nd, 2021. Holy cow, where has the year gone? I'm your host, Brandon Vader, also known as Dracanis. Down below me, Seeker4761. The amount of times I'm still going to try and sneak in the sacks of mostly water joke. Also known as Colton Roper. Down next to him, we have Tim, who... You don't have a game handle.
Yeah, he does.
No. Yeah, you do. Fake Farang.
Fake
Fake
Farang.
Farang.
Yeah.
That's right. Brain. I can brain today.
No, you can't.
Next to me, Charlie Stiffler, also known as Mjolnir. And then further across from him is Psychonitrous, also known as Cody Stratman. So, should be a fun episode tonight. Looks like Cody is going to be telling us about a temperamental two-factor rant. Okay,
Oh,
I may
good.
have lied earlier when I said briefly discuss. There's a rant. I give no guarantees.
Yeah.
But it's all right. You know, if that doesn't bring us down, we can learn that there is something fishy happening in Havana. That's gonna smell awesome.
I know precisely what your topic's about.
I figured you would know. I'm surprised more people don't know about this.
Okay,
Is
actually.
this my condo?
I am
There's
going to
something fishy's
reserve the
happening?
right to rant about James Bond. So if you change that background,
No,
I'm
no,
going to
it's-
pause you,
it's-
and I'm going to make the rant about James Bond. But,
Yeah, we gotta talk about that background.
yeah.
Yeah.
But, and I'm guessing since Charlie wrote this particular intro, I don't know. It seems like it's grammatically incorrect, but I'm going to say it as it is. The is Skyfall-ing. That's what you wrote.
Yes.
Is
Yes.
was in
I intentionally
parentheses.
screwed you up.
Okay.
It was supposed to be. I didn't want to screw it up too badly because the Skyfall-ing or the sky is falling.
Oh.
Like Skyfall, like the James
Yeah.
Bond movie, but
God
the
damn
sky
it.
is falling because explosions. Small things.
We'll see if you look at my... Oh, sorry. We'll go into that.
Yeah, we'll go into that. Tim is going to tell us something about It's Relatively Proven.
Yeah.
Ooh.
So and also about somebody who's probably the smartest person who's ever been.
Also,
Ah,
I
it's so
also
nice
know
of
what your
you
topic
talking about
I know
me,
precisely
Tim.
what your topic is about because of the background you've got. And yes, relatively you are correct.
Oh, yep. I know what it is too. Hell yeah.
And Brandon is talking about taking it to the cloud.
The cloud.
To the cloud. To the Batcave.
Apparently, the weather here in Tucson and Gunnison.
Yeah, if I go away, it's because God is
And
mad
my topic.
and struck me down. Or Charlie's mad with Mjolnir and struck me down.
Yeah.
Thanks. Thanks for that little blip earlier.
You're welcome. Sorry, I coughed.
Yeah.
So before we get into it, I figured since all of you had something smart ass to say about my background, let's get it out. What is
Okay.
wrong with my background?
So let's talk about the bonds that aren't even on your screen right now.
Yeah,
They're not
and the
important,
fact
though.
that
Honestly,
you've
there's
got-
two extraneous bonds on there already.
Daniel
stop.
Craig.
Daniel Craig's a great Bond.
He's a great Bond.
No.
Pierce Brosnan was
Pierce
very
Brosnan.
formative in my childhood.
Yeah, Pierce
Overall, I
Brosnan's
would say
good.
he's probably one of the lesser Bonds. I'll admit that. But he was very formative to my childhood because of GoldenEye and the
Second
most
best.
prolific first-person shooter game I've ever played.
Oh, yeah.
Sir Roger Moore is fantastic. I like him a lot. And, the original, Mr. Toupee himself, Sean Connery.
Oh,
Never
Sean
Say Never
Connery's
Again.
the best.
Sean
Okay,
Connery is
but
the
let's
best.
talk about the 4 that are not on your screen right now. Can
Well, there's-
anyone name the other 4?
Yeah.
I can't. I'm not enough of a Bond
So,
fan.
Timothy Dalton, correct? George
Sir
Lazenby.
Yeah, which
Yep, George Lazenby.
he was in one Bond movie, and he was by far the worst Bond.
Oh,
That one I
stop
agree
it.
with. That one I agree
Okay,
with.
David Niven and Barry Nelson. Those
I like,
are the
I like
eight
David
Bonds.
Niven, but not as a Bond.
Yeah.
And I would just like to point out that the movie The Rock with Nicolas Cage and Sean Connery is a Bond movie. It is a Bond movie.
Oh yeah.
Technically,
Just
It's a Bond movie.
it's
yeah.
I consider it one.
Yeah.
Like in
see
a
that.
Yeah.
it's
okay.
awesome.
Rant over.
Terrible.
That's actually.
Huh? There goes that weather alert.
I love that movie.
Right?
It
world
was
over
nice
here.
knowing you. It's fine. It's fine. Nice knowing you.
It's gonna miss
Prost.
that giant pink cell is gonna miss me. It
Slancha.
just barely, but the power situation is probably gonna be affected. But we'll see. So Cody, why don't you think Mr. Daniel Craig is not a Bond?
They went gritty. They changed Bond to not Bond. Bond used to be
Yeah.
like joyful, vibrant, bright, like
Sexist.
funny. It was allowed to be funny. It was allowed to be that. And then they changed it and they're like, let's add grit to it because everything now needs to be gritty and like
Yep.
ultra real. So let's just sprinkle, like, you got some
Okay.
Fruit Loops there. Let's just put a bunch of like wheat bran in your Fruit Loops. Like, no.
Pause.
No, give me my damn Fruit Loops back.
Who is the next Bond? That's the question I have for the group. Who should be the next Bond?
Ooh.
And I have the
Okay.
right
Idris Elba.
That is the
Idris
right
Elba.
answer.
What?
Idris
What?
Elba.
Idris
needs to be,
Elba.
that would be a
Yes.
big
I
fucking
don't-
deal.
Hold on.
You
I
know
don't
who
even
he is.
Who
If you
Idris-
Google him real quick, you know who he is.
This is
Yes,
one
you
of those
do.
things where I'm gonna have to look it up.
That's fine.
Who is this?
Oh,
Yeah.
He'd
okay.
be fucking
I mean-
amazing. He would be amazing as Bond. It would. There's no.
I
there's-
agree.
There is no
There's
other
canon.
conversation to have.
There's no.
Please
Yeah.
suggest
Person.
another
It's a-
well-known but not too well-known British actor to play Bond right now.
who is
2,
attractive,
1.
who's
That's
strong.
right. You can't.
The guy who plays Sherlock Holmes there. Friggin'
Benedict
Oh!
Cumberbatch.
I don't.
Yes.
I would
Too
sooner
skinny.
see Robert Downey Jr. do it.
No,
Actually,
I'd say
yeah,
the
Robert
Okay,
Downey
so-
Jr. would.
Simon Pegg. Sorry.
Oh
kidding,
my
I'm
God,
Just
Simon
kidding.
Pegg.
Oh.
He could. He could do it. I don't think he's not handsome enough. I think he could do it. Fuck it.
Okay,
People think
so
Daniel
Hey,
Craig wasn't handsome
hey,
enough. So who cares?
hey.
I have a suggestion, but I'm gonna get a
No,
lot of
he's
grief
gritty.
because it's not a
He's-
British. It's not a British version. Chris Pine.
He has the look,
Really?
but
He
doesn't
has the
have-
look.
He needs to
could
be
do it.
British. He needs to be British.
He needs to be British, though. He could do it, but
No.
he needs to be British.
Okay, I agree with the sentiment British, but not English. It's important.
Well, yeah.
It's
Well,
important.
yeah, because
Yes,
we've
yeah.
got.
Oh, yeah, yeah,
Sean
yeah.
Connery's Scottish, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I
And-
guess there's
and
no
Daniel
reason-
Craig, and Daniel Craig's family was Scottish. Like the whole premise of Skyfall that happens in Scotland. So
Yeah.
like
I haven't
it-
actually seen
the
Skyfall.
character should be Scottish.
It's not a
So,
good movie.
I do want to clarify something. Under no pressure of, like, no threat of death, Daniel Craig, who is not pointing a gun at me right now, is the best Bond. So, that's what I'm saying.
No.
Top
I
3.
couldn't have disagreed
Top
with
3.
you more.
I
No, I could. If you said Sir George Lazenby was the best Bond, I would actually disagree with you slightly more, but only barely more than you saying that Daniel Craig is the. Oh
To
my
be
God.
fair,
Go
To be
find
fair.
a
A
fucking
little bit.
series.
to be fair,
Stop pouring great nuts in my Fruit Loops. Stop it.
It was how long? So was it the 60s when the first Bond movie came out with Connery?
Yep.
How has it changed? It had not changed for 30 goddamn years. There's
Yeah,
nothing
it
new to
had.
tell. Not really.
Okay, small detail. The Cold War ended Ian Fleming died,
The same
I mean,
basic,
small things happened.
but the same.
You can
basic
start your own series,
idea.
though. You don't have to Grape Nuts my series. You can start a new Grape Nuts series. And you can have that be
People
as
like
fucking
Grape
gritty
Nuts.
as
You
you
could
want.
do a
Believe it or not,
spinoff. Do a
Did you know
spinoff.
that in
009.
fact? But did you
Yeah.
know that in fact the series doesn't belong to you, Cody, and it belongs to the intellectual property of Sir Ian Fleming, and he can do whatever, or who he designated.
A lot of
can do
people
whatever
like
the fuck
Daniel
they want with
Craig.
it.
As the Bond.
Yeah. And a lot
People
of
didn't
people
like Brosnan.
all
God, a
the
lot of people
video
didn't like
games
Brosnan.
that got more gritty. A lot of people did. A lot of people do.
Just
and
like a
those
lot of
are
people think
stupid.
Sean Connery is the best. There's so many Bonds. Like,
Those people are
but
correct.
you also can't. Like, there's 8 Bonds. Like, it's like saying who's your favorite Doctor from Doctor Who. There's a million of them,
Tennant.
and they're all great.
Yeah,
That's the point.
David Tennant.
That's
David
Yeah.
Tennant.
He's all right. Is it Matt Smith?
Da-
Matt Smith is the best, by the way. Granted, I'm only really familiar with the new reboot, but sorry.
I've only
Okay,
seen
has
one
anyone
episode.
else watched? I wish I could remember the name of it, but there's this Netflix TV show that it's got like the female heroine that can't be hurt, and her like evil ex is David Tennant, and I have a really hard time seeing him
Is it the
as
Marvel
the evil
one?
bastard.
No, is that Good Omens?
Or is that the one with it's a German female name in the name of the series? Not the German, the Russian. Not what is it called?
Hold on, I'm
All right.
trying to look it up now.
The name of the
So-
series is a female's name. Woman.
Point of order, I do have to ask, since it is customary to make Cody go last when he rants.
Oh,
So at least he
Jessica
has
Jones.
Yes. So I propose that anytime someone is ranting, they have to go last so they can be cognizant of the time that the episode has already taken. Is that reasonable?
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Let
Colton.
me pull out the gavel.
Now that it's been like almost 15 minutes or 10 minutes. Yeah.
Yep, 13
Been
minutes,
13
but that's
minutes
all
and
right.
45 seconds. but who's counting?
All
right, all right.
Don't worry.
I'll be
Well, who's going
fairly
first?
quick.
Actually,
Colton.
this
Alright.
won't be too bad of a
Yep.
rant.
Colton, tell us the fishy thing in Havana.
Well,
Havana Syndrome.
there you go. That's my topic. Thanks, guys. Who's next?
This is my TED Talk.
Hey, I don't
Wait,
know what
did
that
you
is.
say? I didn't even
Also-
hear.
Havana Syndrome.
So, yeah.
Ah.
So I'll give you a little bit of little tiny bit of background here first. So recently, there's been an affliction among U.S. diplomats, CIA agents, Defense Department staff, and military personnel, etc., and it is causing some. Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
It's causing some real iffy problems with international relations. Have you guys ever heard of Havana Syndrome, as Charlie said earlier?
No.
Nope.
Really?
Is it the syndrome where you live in a condo that's, built after Havana and they won't do your TM30?
That would be
No.
So
a
then
lot
yes.
better than this particular problem, I would
A
argue.
subject, but I don't know. I didn't know it was called. but that was-
So if and I'm even more lightly researched than you are. I believe at the end of the Obama era, when we had opened diplomatic relations with Cuba again, we reopened our embassy. Our diplomats were experiencing acoustic trauma.
Exactly.
Either
is late 2016 in Havana, which is the Cuban capital, so that's why it's called Havana Syndrome. Officials with the State Department and the CIA began reporting bizarre symptoms like vertigo, headaches, vision and hearing problems, and a whole host of other weird little things like that. Victims said it felt like driving in a vehicle with one window down. So you know that weird pressure you get and you just feel, it just feels wrong. You feel off. So even after the initial symptoms went away, the long-term effects include permanent hearing loss, severe headaches, like consistent severe headaches, and insomnia. So major neurological problems here, actually. 40 American patients with these symptoms were examined at the University of Pennsylvania and were found to have signs of brain damage, but no signs of impact to the skull. Essentially, it's a concussion without a concussion is kind of what they describe it as. So, yeah, that, and in honor of the fact that they first, I guess, discovered it in Havana, that's why it's called Havana Syndrome, partly because they don't know what the fuck it is, really. Yeah, like, they don't know. They're really guessing. Roughly about 200 U.S. officials have actually experienced it, and it actually seems to be a very targeted thing. Roughly half of those 200 are CIA agents, and the other half is split between like the Defense Department and the State Department officials. And it's not just Cuba where this phenomenon is happening. U.S. officials and their families have reported this in Russia, Poland, Austria, UK, China, Uzbekistan, and like 9 other freaking places in the world. And to kind of clarify again, it's not a Obama-Trump era kind of thing either. Since Biden took office in the United States, 24 or so officials have reported having this syndrome as well. And it's not just the U.S. where this is happening. As Tim said, I think it's like 27 cases in Canada of the same level of people are having this particular problem. Fucking weird. So this is like a 5-year thing going on right now. And they still don't know what is actually causing it. One of the leading theories is that it's caused by some hypersonic weapon emitting sound outside the capabilities of the human ears is one theory. Another theory is that the symptoms are caused by, quote, a directed pulsed radio frequency energy device. But basically
In other words, an ad.
they have no... It's real potential. They are saying it is it's a targeted thing. It's not just some random illness, because it's all over the world where this is happening. And people with sensitive information are having these particular problems. Like there's one instance of I think it was at the Defense Department. He was driving through a random intersection. I don't know where, unfortunately, but he said he had a huge headache. They had that same weird vertigo problem with the air pressure, and as soon as he finished through that intersection, it went away. So they have no fucking clue. Still,
there's no proof, but it sounds like something.
It's to the point where the Pentagon is saying they're debating if they want, because maybe soldiers are having the same problem wherever they're stationed throughout the world, and they're trying to they only recently started getting serious about investigating what's actually going on. Officials in both the Trump administration and the Biden administration think it's the Russians, but honestly, there's no proof of that. And it's kind of iffy to just claim that an enemy or a potential, I want to say enemy, but a hostile nation doing that kind of thing, using secret weapons and highly advanced stuff. That's a pretty big thing to say, since the iffy international relations thing. So, like I said, it's something I've been following for a few years, and and the fact that the numbers keep growing, it wasn't just a weird freak thing, means it kind of seems like it's a sustained effort for whatever is actually going on. So,
all right, here's my theory. It's Sodexo.
Sodexo?
The food company, the ones that were responsible for the terrible food on campus at our college.
I can see that. That's so fucking Sodexo with their box macaroni
since it's specified to embassy staff, I am willing to bet that they have common links other than geography, diet being one of them. Supply chain is going to be huge.
Oh, definitely.
So,
like I said, it's the combination of that with the brain damage is the weird thing, though. That's, I mean, I know a diet could cause some things, but to be so concussion-like is very, and I'm not a medical expert in the slightest, even less than, well, obviously everyone on this podcast, but it's weird. Like, I'm not saying it is, but it's big
the
enough
members of the
that
family. I'm assuming that they're also in
they
the
experienced
embassies
this
and stuff
too.
when that happened. Yeah, and okay.
Yeah. And again, it's also not just in embassies either, and the fact that it's going with that one report of it happening real quick and then stopping, which is kind of a weird. I don't know. It's it's
very
interesting.
weird.
So it's, I don't know. There'll probably be an update by next year because there'll probably be another 200 people who are affected by it. And the only reason it's not a bigger deal on like news sites, probably because it's kind of an iffy thing to just start claiming shit. But it's also, they only recently announced that they're getting serious about it right around the time they did the UFO report in June. So it's interesting.
Declassified
Which is also weird
stuff.
that they released the UFO report at the. I don't know. I don't know. I'm not being a conspiracy
Maybe-
theorist here.
Ooh, aliens.
Totally.
The truth is out there.
Hey, look over at this thing over here, and not at this thing that's actually a little more real and scary.
As far as we know,
truth is out there.
Five popular podcasters are probably safe. But if I don't show up next week, you'll know what happened.
know.
So
These guys right here. These three. The unexplained UAVs from your
exactly.
previous topic.
Yeah, they're totally related. Yeah, I am becoming a conspiracy theory guy. I'm just reporting on news, bro.
If you don't report on Sasquatch in the next couple weeks, I'm gonna be disappointed. That's what I have to say.
Oh, I could. It's fascinating. I mean,
Some of us are related.
I've done things on like pseudoscience before. Way back in our first 10 episodes, I think I did one on. I don't remember what it was. God, that was so long ago.
Oh,
I
it
so
was
young.
history. It was like false history or something like that.
That's right. And it's
Or
fascinating.
the conspiracy theory that the Middle Ages didn't happen because some guy won.
Yeah.
That's what it was.
Year
That
1000.
was one, but there's one even farther back that was. I think it was regarding a famous musician who's. I don't know. I'll have to look it up, but doesn't matter. But I guess. Fuck, we'll go to Charlie. I don't know how to even segue into what you're talking about because something about sky falling, I'm guessing.
This is a mystery that took 105 years to have the words "the end" attached to the end of it. So imagine, if you will, it is 7:17 a.m., June 30th, 1908, and you are in yonder BFE Russia. Okay, this is Russia, not the Soviet Union. This is before the Soviet Union. If you're approximately 1,000 kilometers away from this thing, when it hits its precipice, you're going to feel about a 5.0 magnitude earthquake. If you're about 500 kilometers away from it, you're going to have a deafening bang, and you'll see a fireball above. If you're 170 kilometers away from this thing, you're going to see an object brighter than the sun moving very, very fast in broad daylight. If you're 60 kilometers from it, you're going to be a reindeer farmer, rancher, herder. You rustle reindeer, and you're going to be asleep. And then you're going to be thrown 40 feet into a fucking tree and die of complications from a compound fracture. If you're 30 kilometers away, you're just going to be dead. So you're going to see trees knocked down radially away from the center point. But you're also going to see, let me click this picture. So here's the radial knocked down trees. They're all pointing towards their epicenter.
Air blast.
But very strangely, at the epicenter, where you'd expect to see a crater from, I don't know, a meteor strike, the trees are all standing without their tops and without their limbs. The entire area, several thousand square kilometers, completely charred from a firestorm-style forest fire. If you're as far west as Central Europe, you're going to see a strange glow in the evening sky, colorful sunsets, and an odd luminescence in the twilight. And anyone guess where I'm talking about?
It's up in Russia.
It's up in Russia. It's a meteor?
It's not.
It's
It's an air blast meteor.
Tunguska Event.
It's Tunguska. That's correct. So Tunguska happened in 1908, but it took almost 19 years for anyone to start investigating it. It
So
took a
remote.
professor of mineralogy, this guy,
That handsome fella. He should be next Bond.
Leonard Kolick. He started his expedition in 1921, and he was a professor of mineralogy in the newly formed USSR, and he was studying meteorites. And he happened to be traveling in the vicinity of this area and started hearing, faint stories of this event. But he kept on running into significant problems. Not only is this the most desolate, remote part of Russia, but it is also very swampy forest. So, this 1921 trucks, all-terrain vehicles, not really a thing yet. So hiking and walking, horseback, reindeer back, because yeah. He's at one point swapped horses for reindeer for mounted creatures, which I want to see that. I want to see the reindeer that would submit to that, because Santa's got it all wrong. They're assholes. They're worse than Canadian geese. Like, they're assholes.
They're delicious assholes.
Delicious assholes.
That came out
Wow.
terrible.
Oh.
Bad timing, Cody.
That-
Bad timing.
That's very progressive. Good for you.
So he actually came across a report of a family that was about 25 miles away from the epicenter of this blast. They were all knocked unconscious, and when they regained consciousness, they exited their home, which was basically knocked to the ground, and the entire forest around them was in a firestorm. And so they barely made it out. But 1921, he gets up there. He futzes around, kind of has some failures, doesn't actually get to the site. Kind of has a general vicinity of the effect, but doesn't know, which direction the epicenter is. March 27, in 1927 rather, he gets as close as the closest settlement, Vanuvala. I didn't make this shit up. That's how you pronounce it. And unfortunately for him, they are still a shamanic, as in they believe in shamans and pagan kind of rituals. And the nationality of that region is the Tungus. And they look like very Mongol Inuit. So those features. The problem that he kept on running into is they believe in the thunder god Ogdi. And Ogdi was the cause of this Tunguska event, because he was clearly punishing them for their hubris and destroyed and cursed the area around. So none of these people will go anywhere into the destroyed area for fear of being cursed themselves. So several times he's had to turn back and try to get new guides and expedition scouts. He has repeat expeditions in 1929 and 1938, but he never finds the epicenter. Strangely, well, actually, in the 38, he gets to the epicenter, but he doesn't find a crater, and he doesn't understand why there's no crater. And his expedition gets interrupted by a small thing called World War II. Little blip in the radar of history, really. But he does find the standing forests at the center of the blast area. It's not until E.L. Krivnov who is the first proposed that it was an air blast. So a meteorite that fully disintegrated mid-air, but it's quickly, brushed off as not a possible. The thing that impacts the ground in most meteorite collisions is actually a coal. So it's burned up carbon of whatever was there to begin with, and that's what survives till impact. So they were thinking initially that it was like an ice meteorite or something like that. There were several different theories.
Yes,
like
ice, the highly flammable thing.
Well, the fact that it would evaporate completely if it was heated
True,
to
yeah.
the point. Yeah. So one of the other theories that was thrown out is some sort of alien superweapon test. You know, like an Enola Gay. Spell that one out, and then it'll make sense, Cody. Don't worry, it's okay. Enola. Anyways, sorry. The other option was something along the lines of Tesla's death ray being tested on the opposite side of the world, you know, going through ionosphere, and
this is
just
the
utterly...
inventor Tesla, not the smart car man.
Yeah, the inventor Tesla, Nikola.
Yeah.
And
the namesake, yeah.
He did have an
It's sad we have to
operational
explain that.
death ray at this point, at this exact moment, and there may have hypothetically been a documented test the day before. But, I mean, there's no proof that, you know, you can reach from Colorado Springs to Tunguska, Russia, in, the
It's a real specific area, yeah.
Yeah, it's just like, fuck this particular place in particular.
Screw that endless forested area right
hey,
there.
Fuck this
which
caribou.
actually makes sense as a test.
Yeah. So, you know, that's an option. So it's not until 1978 that samples taken from peat and permafrost in this region are taken, but they still don't find any large chunk meteorites. So they're like, well, this doesn't really seem like a meteorite. And then in 2013, the peat samples are actually studied under microscope and are found to have microfragments of londesite, which is a mineral that only forms during re-entry into an atmosphere. So this puts the smoking gun to rest of Tunguska. This asteroid meteorite object that entered the Earth's atmosphere was entering at 15 kilometers a second. That's really fast. That's like 9,000 miles an hour. It could travel across...
It's always funny when you see, like, in movies, like a disaster movie, where the meteor or the asteroid is coming or anything, and they have, like, hours as it's coming through the atmosphere. I'm like, you wouldn't even see it.
Yeah.
It would just explode, and there would be fire.
Seconds. It's 45 seconds, and then it's boom.
If you weren't looking for it.
So it exploded approximately 8 to 10 kilometers above sea level, above the site. And it was only approximately 98 million cubic meters. So it's not actually that big. It's about the size of the island inside of Crater Lake. It's exceptionally small, actually. Its speed is really what made it up, and the fact that it didn't reach the ground tells you that it's actually not a huge object. Very interestingly, it entered the Earth's atmosphere at an azimuth of 60 degrees. Had the Earth rotated approximately 7 minutes more, it would have hit St. Petersburg, Russia. And that would have been a population of 1.2 million people in 1908. Tsar Nicholas of Russia was currently in the Baltic with his wife, meeting with the then King of England, discussing, alliances pre-World War I, because, history. So had the Duma, the Congress that was very much against Tsar Nicholas, had been just decimated, you basically have two historical scenarios. You basically have the Tsar stays in power, or the immediate decapitation of the aristocracy and the solidification of Soviet control 20 years before World War II. The history just looks utterly different. Had that meteor hit St. Petersburg, it would have been the single largest loss of life from any natural event in history. Yeah. Just small shit, right?
Yeah, one of those what ifs are always interesting to think about.
Yeah, just small stuff.
Oh, yeah.
What's interesting is large swaths of this forest have never recovered. They have never started regrowing. If you actually walk through this forest, compasses are useless. It's just spinning in place, because a lot of the fragments are iron rich, and so, yeah, good luck. Yeah, so Yeah, the sky's falling.
Cool.
There you go.
Thanks, Daniel
yeah.
Craig.
Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome. By the way, I am a big fan of Daniel Craig as a James Bond, but he's still only the third best, in my opinion.
Yours is Connery, Brosnan.
Sean Connery is the reason why Bond is successful. If Sean Connery doesn't make his 6 movies, separated by a single George Lazenby, Never Say Never Again, you don't have the franchise. It just sputters. So you have to pay
George
homage.
Lazenby was Her Majesty's Secret Service.
Right, but the movie
That
that
might be an interesting
followed
question.
that was
Oh yeah, you're right.
Never Say Never Again, because
Yeah.
Sean Connery said he'd never play Bond again. That's the name of the movie for that reason. Sir Roger Moore is excellent. Pierce Brosnan made it through our childhood, and if you never played Odd Job with headshots on only, you don't understand what we're talking about. Yeah, it was fantastic. It was fantastic.
So old now.
Yeah, you should, because N64 is 30 years
I know.
old. 25
years old.
old.
Why? No,
Yeah,
just
it's
stop.
like, don't add years, bro.
Okay, so on that topic, Tim, tell us why it's relatively unproven, but relatively proven.
Well, my topic has to do with probably the smartest person we've ever had live, and it's Einstein's theory of relativity. And the news I found in a couple of articles today was headlined "First detection of light from behind a black hole proves Einstein right." His theory of relativity predicted that the gravitational pull of black holes is so large that they warp the fabric of space. To most of us, light only travels in straight lines. It can be reflected and redirected, but it doesn't curve. But with Einstein's theory, it was like black holes will warp the space fabric around them, and it should be possible to see light waves ejected out of a black hole's backside, because the magnetic fields and the time warp will enable that. But that's been never proven, and it was proven just a short time ago by accident. There were 2 authors of this report in Nature, Dan Wilkins and somebody in the name of Blandford. And they discovered, while they're not even looking for this, that they saw X-rays, which is another form of radiation, a light radiation, coming out of at the back end of a black hole that they were examining. So this was proving once again that one of Einstein's theories was correct, and it's almost like 100 years later, because 1916, I believe, was when he came up with his theory of relativity. So I found that really interesting, and I've got about three articles to reference, which I'll put in the show notes. And that's about it. It's about the base of my understanding of the whole thing.
It's all you need, honestly.
Yeah.
It's
You mean
fascinating.
you're not
A
a
lot of
physicist?
the shit Einstein, well, not, like, did is like GPS only works because of that theory. It's like it's amazing how someone from that long ago still affects us to this day daily. It's cool.
So there's a couple things about Einstein that are very widely misquoted. Like, he never failed math. Like, he wasn't some sort of janitor savant kind of guy. And then the other thing is, it's impossible to prove the speed of light. So the speed of light, objectively, 300,000 meters a second. But you can't actually prove it, because there's no authentication way that would travel faster than the light in order to verify that it's going 2-directional. So you send the message from point A to point B, and you send it back, but there's no way to prove that it didn't travel twice the speed of light to the person and a tenth of the speed of light back. There's no way to prove that. So if you're assuming it's a constant, then you can assume that you have the exact speed of light. But there's so much that Einstein was able to prove and throw out there that has just stuck. And the more and more we thought about it, they're like, oh, that's bullshit. And then the more and more we did it, and like, wait, what?
Yep.
I think I speak for everyone here. We're a pro Einstein kind of podcast.
Yeah.
Pro physics.
Yeah.
That would be a weird thing to be anti.
I don't believe in
Light.
gravity, bitch.
So I will move along to Brandon, and his subject is taking it to the cloud. Now I'm curious what this is going to be.
Yeah.
Tape drives.
No. God, no.
Yeah.
No
Yeah,
tape
cloud
drives.
seeding?
80% of the
Cloud
cloud is
seeding?
tape drives.
It's
I
the only thing
know.
it can be.
So Microsoft announced a little bit ago their Windows 365 platform, a cloud-based PC that can be accessed via a web browser. They didn't initially reveal the whole price lineup. Instead, they only released the price for one user, 2 CPU cores, 4 gigs of RAM, and 128 gigs of storage, and that was $31 a month.
That's
as of
fucking
today,
terrible. That's terrible.
I'll get there. I'll get there. As of today, we now have the full pricing, and Microsoft has opened up the availability so that businesses and enterprise can start rolling them out to users. The cheapest setup currently will contain one virtualized CPU, 2 gigs of RAM, 64 gigs of storage, and 12 gigabytes of bandwidth, and will start at $20 a month. Anyone familiar with ShadowTech, cloud-based
I was
gaming
just about
PC?
to fucking say, that's
I know.
unbelievable.
I know how we all think. It's kind of crazy. Yeah, so ShadowTech, which is a cloud-based gaming PC, if you're familiar with it, you'll think this price is crazy, as the current $29.99 a month PC through ShadowTech contains a 4-core, 8-thread processor, 12 gigs of RAM, 256 gigs of storage, and the equivalent of a GTX 1080. I bring this up because that's my initial thoughts on pricing is why?
What is the price for ShadowTech at that point?
Do what?
What's the price point that ShadowTech charges for that level?
$29.99.
Same as okay, so the same as that. Okay, got it. Sorry, missed that.
Yep. That's all right. So there's some big differences in the underlying technology. So Microsoft has a more robust server farm with more locations around the globe. All of the services are managed by Microsoft, so there's no worry about endpoint management unless your company has its own Intune instance that the Windows 365 VPCs can tie into, virtual PCs. You can also, unless I've read the SLA incorrectly, host applications on the Windows 365 platform, unlike Shadow, which specifically prohibits 24/7 usage. You can purchase a
That's what I was
Microsoft
wondering.
365.
Dedicated versus non-dedicated is basically it. So you're still, with Shadow, you're renting a time slot on the machine, even though it doesn't appear that that's what you're doing, versus Microsoft, where you're dedicated. You have that machine somewhere. Yeah. Okay.
Exactly. And if you look at other virtualized servers that are dedicated like that, where you have the hardware, it's not shared with anyone else, then the prices start to make a lot more sense.
Yeah.
It's just the way it is. And part of that is there's not going to be a queue to get in. You purchase a Microsoft 365 license, you log in. There's no fuss, no muss. Shadow lately has had. I was trying to play some Star Citizen the other day just because why not? Because I stupidly signed a year contract with Shadow and still have another like 4 months on it. I had to wait 30 minutes to get in to my Shadow. And then there was an issue with my Shadow, and I had to call the customer service. They had to reset it, so I had to reinstall Star Citizen because they wiped
Yeah,
the
but
drive.
if something like that were to happen on Microsoft, you'd have to go through the same problem. You'd have to call
Wait,
someone, figure out what's wrong with it.
Wait, you wouldn't have
Well,
a delayed start to get on it.
yeah,
mean,
it
everything
would.
Well, you
else
also have
would
you
be.
do have the economies of scale with Microsoft, and obviously they're supporting a business side, so there better be better support at that point, especially if your entire enterprise is based on that, on those
Yeah.
cloud
Well,
PCs.
Well, and here's the other thing. So I can tell you for a fact, because my company has started to play with this a little bit, that there are tools on the back end that we can tie into to resolve issues with these virtualized cloud computers. So that you wouldn't even have to, like, as an end user for the company you're working for, you would still call your company IT, and then they would look into it and be like, oh yeah, let's just restart that real quick, restart the session. Okay, now you're in, you should be good to go. Versus actually having to reach out to Microsoft for their support. Which, speaking about use cases, two things that immediately spring to my head is call centers and remote workers. So that rather than allowing BYOD structure, bring your own device, users wouldn't have to access it through their own equipment, which wouldn't open up a VPN tunnel to your company. As a company, you wouldn't have to force them to install whatever endpoint management tools your company requires. You just simply set them up with company email, tie that into the Active Directory, Microsoft Single Sign-On, give them an address to the portal, and then tell them, here you go, here's your new work machine. Viruses wouldn't be able to transfer between the web client to the Microsoft 365 machine, at least not initially. Let's be honest. Crafty hackers and programmers will find a way. But if you are using that and require multi-factor authentication, it greatly shrinks the attack surface that you'd be able to have. Because right now, so like if you have a company where you basically say, look, you need to run these applications on your computer, you need to have a VPN on to tie into the network so that these programs can access our internal servers, you are opening up a point of attack. So that if that user on their own time gets a virus on their personally owned computer, then they go to log into work the next day, that VPN is a source that virus could then spread through. And hopefully your company has the right.
Yeah, and that's why when I worked for the borough, we did not allow users to. It was very specific. Yep. Like if you could use VPN, it was pretty much only on a surface that we let you borrow for your own use. It was not your own device.
See, so we just switched away, which is the only reason I can talk about this. We just switched away from doing VPNs. For a long time, we actually had VPN clients that people can install on their personal computers if they had a necessity. Now we do everything through virtualized. We haven't switched over to the Microsoft 365 stuff. It's all basically apps. So it just opens the app that they need to run rather than a full virtualized computer. Which, yeah, I actually prefer it that way. It's easier to do, then you're not worrying about a system to update and stuff like that. You're just worrying about Azure keeping its shit together.
You have to access this from a machine, which means that machine has to have minimum specifications. And if the minimum
a web browser,
phone,
a web browser,
yeah, but you still have to have hardware on site, right?
And RAM, and
you have to have a computer.
Yeah.
So here's you
but
go
you don't
super
necessarily
cheap,
have to have a computer. You could do this through. Why can't you do it through a phone?
You can.
You could totally do it through a phone.
They already have applications out for iPads
Yeah,
so
then
that you can
then
access
easy.
Microsoft 365.
Here in Southeast Asia, every single person has a phone.
Right, but
they don't have
that's...
computers, but they've got phones. So this actually would be
Can you
very
do
applicable here.
can you do work on a phone? I mean, we can because we're tech people, but
But we're also not phone people. Like we might we are we are not as integrated into the phone as people here are. Like
right. And but I'm
the
thinking
stuff
of a
that I've seen people do on phones here is another level
Right.
beyond what we
But
do
here's the
because we can't
thing.
do it on something else.
Right. I know you can do everything. You could tie your phone into a display dock, and you can do work on it. But as a business, you still... I mean, okay, you have your phone. You're having to type up a 30-page report. You're not typing up a 30-page report on a screen this size. Maybe some people can.
Well,
I'm not if I have a choice.
Here's
I'm
something
playing
I
a
see.
devil's
choice.
advocate here.
If you have a choice.
But you're thinking
again,
of... Hang on. Okay, so... And I go kind of agree with Charlie here. You're thinking of this is for businesses. This is a business class type of thing mostly, right? This, because
Business and enterprise.
most people, an individual person isn't going to go and purchase this kind of thing because it doesn't make sense.
You're right. You're right. But a small, like a chain of coffee shops might and have their employees use their phone to connect into this. Like Amazon Coffee here could do something like that.
And again, so here's my next question. So you have that basic, the entry price $20 for a single core and what, 2 gigs of RAM, 1 gig of RAM,
Yeah,
which
2 gigs of RAM.
is
Raspberry Pi.
nothing. You can't. You can type up a text document with that type of stuff. Honestly.
Yeah.
So
Or play
what is
Doom.
the
Well,
Not
or
the new
yeah,
one.
but you can't. That type of tier, I'm guessing, is for the secretaries who need to type stuff. I don't know. You're not really
even
doing real work
uh,
on that type of
Yeah. Yeah.
well,
thing.
it would be
You're going back
it's
to
for
call
your
centers,
call
yes.
center. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so what is
And-
the highest tier? That's
Okay.
That's what I'm curious about.
So the absolute highest offered through just the click and go is 8 virtualized CPUs, 32 gigs of RAM, 512 gigs of storage, and it's $162 a month.
So, at
Which,
either
if
price
you
point,
think,
within how many? Okay, and again, this is hardware versus software, but at $162 a month, you could probably get. I mean, I don't know. How much would it cost to have an equivalent machine on your desk
being
if you were to
built
purchase it outright?
How many months of
probably,
usage?
so a year would get you at 1,944, which would get you a pretty damn good
Yeah.
Right. So
desktop and or laptop. It would not be that level though. 32 gigs, 512 gig storage, 8 cores. That would be
That's-
like an i9.
No, you can do that with
mine is
AMD.
Well, okay. Businesses don't use AMD.
Not yet.
well,
Not
but
yet.
The point, regardless, it doesn't
But
matter.
right now they don't.
It doesn't matter because we're arguing that's a workstation grade SKU. Would
Yeah.
you say?
Yeah.
Okay, so you could do.
I would say a year and a half is probably about what these.
So I'm thinking,
These
so
average
on
out
that
to.
level, just a quick little thing. So at that level, if you're doing work that requires that level of computer, you are probably going to have the machine of that caliber on your site, right?
Okay,
If you're doing that type of work.
Here might be a savings advantage. Is that just the hardware, or does that also cover like Microsoft
I guess you're not paying for
365
electricity
Suite?
and shit.
Yeah, you're not paying for electricity. You're not paying for the Microsoft 365 Suite. Maybe.
So the other thing to consider is these include like the higher tiers don't really have a monthly like data cap. So you're also talking at that point, like maybe that's a, rendering station or development station, and then it's uploading to, whatever else it needs to upload to. And, you know, like here, I can't get fucking upload. But if I do all of my work natively on like Shadow that has a gig up, gig down,
That's a good point.
that may be something to bring into that cost analysis.
Yeah.
I don't think that's really where a lot of people are going to be, though. To be honest,
Yeah, and that's.
I think that sweet spot is probably going to be like their $45 a month plan. 2-core, 8 gig, 128 gig storage. That's about what our like average worker bee person uses at the company that I'm with. Is a 2 to 4 core desktop, 8 gigs, 128 gig storage. We're just finally getting to the point where 128 isn't getting to be enough for most people if they're year round. But I mean, that's the other thing. If you've got a seasonal workforce where for 6 to 8 months out of the year you need hundreds of these systems.
That's actually
Being able
I
to
could agree with
add
that.
them and remove them at will would be
Yep.
very advantageous.
Yeah, regardless.
And
it
then
is
you don't
a-
have equipment sitting on a shelf collecting dust. You don't have equipment sitting on a desk that isn't used for most of the
that's a good
year.
point.
That's
It's
just
getting
depreciating in
older.
value.
Yeah.
You
It's
can
good to have
turn it
options.
off, turn it on. Yeah. So where? Oh no, and it locked. Hold on.
The one
Womp
note.
womp. Okay. So now I can get back onto my train. Now I'm sure what you're all thinking, but Brandon, why should I care? Well, here's the reason. Businesses generally adopt something. Then after time, consumers start to want it in their own lives. The initial technology gets better and better in the hand of businesses and enterprises, all without bogging down your average user. Fast forward 5 years from now, and rather than plunking down money for a new laptop or desktop, we're all using thin clients with a good network if the US can get their fucking shit together, rather than native hardware. This makes the average consumer's life easier, makes it easier for those of us who support end users to actually support them. Just have them get their PC through your company, add in a couple dollars a month per user on top of Microsoft's subscription to provide support, and sit back and generate mostly passive income. This is kind of a business model that this has made me realize today would be something very interesting. I'm going to have to look pretty deep into Microsoft's service license agreements to see if this is something that can be done. Like if I were to create a company like BV's Computer Euporium or whatever, if I could then sell instances of these, set them up, tie it into my own Intune management portal, so that if someone gets a virus, I can be like, great, let's restore it to the last state. I don't have to physically be there. Or, okay, let's log into a different user profile and clean it up. Let's look at this, let's look at that. Offer backup and storage, and like you could tie in a bunch of stuff, and now, you know, these prices, I would imagine, like either the prices are going to drop off exponentially or the performance is going to go up exponentially for what you're paying in the next 5 years.
Or it's going
Yeah,
to
I
be
guess
like the
upgrade.
cell phone bill that didn't exist before 1995, and that everyone now just has to roll into their life expenses.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's what Microsoft wants.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
Yay,
I have one other
subscription
point.
services that are going to be great.
Yeah. That is like the one big downside, but what about you, the gamer in the audience? You'll always have that RGB encrusted 50-pound behemoth on your desk, right? Well, if the network gets good enough, why wouldn't you ditch the big glowing E-peen on your desk? You'd have more immediate access to better hardware. Look at all the kerfuffle with the Series 3 GTX, RTX cards. Businesses have been able to source them pretty much without an issue. Also, think about the quantum leap forward we could take if, rather than hardware for the individual, companies designed purely for the large server farms, massive performance benefits, and you wouldn't have the inefficient heater sitting next to you on my desk.
So, console gaming. Oh, right. Okay, understand.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, if Shadow worked multi-screen, if my personal internet was better.
Yeah, and there wasn't data caps. How many of... So, Colton, you have a data cap.
Every fucking month I hit my goddamn.
I used to have
I
a
hate
data cap. Yeah, data cap. US still has data caps. The number one economy in the world still has data caps for many internet. Yeah, sure, you don't. That's
I don't
great.
either yet.
Yeah, don't. And
Well,
a
it's
lot of these
also
companies,
somehow legal to call a
unlimited.
like if you have an unlimited plan of some sort and then limit it.
Oh,
Somehow
God.
that's illegal.
Yeah.
In this, I don't know how it is in Thailand
Just-
there. But I feel like that's lying to the customer, which I'm pretty sure is not okay. But whatever.
Yeah.
That could be a whole rant episode.
But
Yeah.
what I'm getting at is if the network was better, if my connection to Shadow was better.
If airplanes and business, so you said a lot of these are catered to business. Guess who
Yeah.
flies long haul a lot during normal times? Businesses. Guess
why
what
would you do
airlines you have
that?
to pay for 100 megabytes of data on the airplane? Long
But
haul.
aren't they trying to
So
move everything
Yeah.
remote? Isn't that part of the appeal of this particular system? Is moving a bit more
Yeah,
remote?
you wouldn't have to be any one specific location, and a lot of companies are kind of doing away with the business travel for the most part.
It
There's been a
depends.
huge
There-
drop.
There has been a huge drop based on the
Okay.
pandemic, but
Yes.
there's also
Okay.
been a huge... They've realized that psychologically, that meeting clients in person is still far superior than to doing a Zoom call.
Okay.
So,
Well, and what it's doing is it's bifurcating that industry. You have your people that are still going to do business trips, are still going to go meet clients that are going to be more costly. But yes, probably provide a better service. And then you're going to have your people that no longer do that because it's cheaper for them. And it's also enough of an equivalent experience that I know of several companies that have already basically said, yeah, we're not doing travel anymore. This
Okay.
isn't going to be a thing.
So, eating too much cake is a sin of gluttony. However, eating too much
God.
pie is okay because the sin of pie is always 0.
I'm okay with that one.
the
That's
cake
at
is a
least-
lie.
That's
too,
more
so-
okay. Yeah, the cake is
Hey,
absolutely a
hey,
lie.
Brandon, where do bad rainbows go? Prism.
Bad.
Oh God, Cody, rant away. Cody, rant away. Save us.
I recently had to get a new phone because my beautiful, wonderful, happy Razer Phone 2, it still works, except for the camera, and unfortunately it's the main, not the telephoto camera. So the wide-angle camera has blurriness to it, and spent some time trying to figure out if that was hardware or software. Eventually backed up all of my data, went through. Here's another thing that's important. So this rant is going to start with phones and become about two-factor authentication, because that's where
As a
I am
natural flow of things.
continuing to have issue. And so there's different types of two-factor authentication. There's the most common, which is the text message that basically you sign in, then the company goes, hey, we haven't seen you from this IP address for a while. We're going to send you a text message to, really know that you're there. Yeah.
Yep.
Then there's the much more secure authenticator app or authenticator actual dongle, which is what companies, some enterprises, like financial people used to use for a long time, and now they're becoming a little bit more popular. And that's basically where you have a code or on a device or on an app on your computer. When you log in, it asks you for that code. That code changes every 20, 30 seconds or something. And the code basically time syncs or something to what they're expecting. So you're the only person with that, and you have to do it. Then there's the backup codes. So it's basically that same thing-ish, but you can actually use when you first sign up to that and sign up for two-factor authentication, you get this list of codes that you can then put in to either add that authenticator app, or you can use that to actually sign in, depending on what you're signing into and their security privacy policies. Well, what really sucks is when you're in a different company or a country and you're trying to get rid of your stupid $70 phone bill, which actually is more than that because I have to, every time I get a text message, I have to pay $10 for that day to get text messages, in favor of my, what is it? $9, less than $9 a month cell phone bill with 200 gigabytes of data. So I am desperately trying to move everything over to that. However, it's been problematic due to this two-factor authentication and
So what you're saying is I should send you a bunch of text messages, like right now.
No, one a day for the next year.
Right.
Yeah, one a day.
One a day. Got it.
Oh my god.
Just one. Just say, hey, what's you
This
up?
text message cost you $10.
Brought to you by that snarky asshole.
Yeah, AT&T. Yay. So, anyway, the first thing that I did when I was going to switch phones, or I was going to see if I needed to switch phones, which means in order to see if it was a hardware or software problem, to eliminate any software variables, I was just going to do a full reset on my phone. And the first thing that I need to do is back up anything that I have tied to one of those little authenticator apps that the code changes. If you don't do that, you lose that, and you're probably going to have to call the company, if you're lucky, and then answer a series of questions about life, the universe, and everything as it pertains to you.
42.
Or you just lose control of that account, which actually happened to me on one crypto exchange.
Oh.
Luckily, I didn't have much at all on that exchange, but I lost their authenticator app between my phones a long time ago, and yeah. So, just poof, gone. Oh well.
That sounds potentially expensive.
Yeah. So, that's crappy, but at least I remembered to do that, and then I went through and changed a bunch of apps to my new Thai number. Well, reset my phone, and one thing, which is probably the most glaring that I completely forgot about, is I use a password manager in order to sign into certain things. One of those things is Google. When you reset your Android phone and you come back up, what's the first thing that you have to do? You have to sign into Google, because you don't have to technically, but in order to use the Play Store, you do, to download your password manager app. Yeah.
You didn't.
So,
You didn't. You didn't.
I had to create a new Google account and email in order to download the Passenger app in order to get back into that.
Okay, so you got your old one back.
Yeah, I got my old one back because I was able to get my password manager app. I knew I was going to be able to do that by coming home, but I did all of this at a mall while eating breakfast. Because I wanted to
After
check my
talking
phone.
to me.
Yeah, after talking to Brandon, I was just like, screw it, I'm going to do this.
Apparently I'm a bad influence.
Discovered the issue with the phone was a hardware issue because it did not go away upon reformatting, and was sad that I was going to have to get a new phone because I love that phone. Anyway, walked around, got a new phone after several hours of searching, and then had to re-log into everything. There are some things that I had huge issues with. Banks.
Yeah.
So the problem with a lot of the banks in the US is they will not take a tie number. So I have to keep a damn $70 a month plan until I can figure out some sort of alternative because of
I already
my
have an alternative
goddamn
for you.
fucking banks.
They have
What's the alternative?
So if you look up, can't remember the freaking apps, like Freetone or something. There's a bunch of apps out there where you can actually get a phone number, pay a few bucks a month, and it could be in whatever zip code you want. And there you go. So you pay a couple bucks a month. It's an app on your phone, and
it does VoIP calling and VoIP texting.
It's a cell. It's something that came up for people that don't want to put a second or have a second phone in their pocket or a second SIM card in their phone
for a
they
business
can't do
line.
Almost like Google Voice.
It's exactly what it is. I've used it
so
before.
I tried using one of them that Tim uses called Text Now, and I think where I screwed up using it, because I'm going to try and get rid of the number, but they make you wait 15 days to release a number, is I screwed up by putting my country as Thailand in the app.
Yeah,
and
don't do that.
I should have put my country as the United States.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that's what I think I'm going to redo is just remove that account and then or just use I'll try some of the ones that Colton recommends.
Is that you're having to learn how to be an excellent hacker and grifter and fisher, but you're doing it to yourself. You have to successfully do this to yourself.
Yeah,
you are now officially a Nigerian prince.
No, this occurred to me that basically I am doing all of the things that are going to each of these companies and going, what is this person doing? Like, this person wants to get a new phone number in another country? Like alert, what's happening? Are you going to try and steal data from people? And then there's... So part of this was me changing my Play Store, my Google Play Store, to Thailand versus the United States. Because for some reason we still have apps based off of location for some dumb fucking reason.
You have to keep one of each. You have to make sure you have one of each.
Okay, luckily when I had to create that new account, that is registered in Thailand because my phone... When I created that new one and reset my phone, it came up in Thai, and I had to figure out how to undo the language. So that was also fun too.
What a mess! I love it.
Yeah, luckily I know what Thai looks like in Thai with the Thai writing, so I'm able to change the language. Yeah. But that's been fun, and because of that, I can't. Now that I'm set in Thailand, I can't download some of my banking apps because they don't have that for Thailand. So it's been this weird regional nightmare of trying to be able to have stuff here and have stuff there, which, granted, most people that listen to this podcast, unless they're part of an international community or an expat somewhere, won't have this issue and have no idea what the hell I'm talking about.
Yeah.
But if you live in one country, but you are still tied to another country, like, this stuff is weird but necessary, because you still
Price you
have
pay for security.
assets here and stuff here. So until, like, unless I fully moved everything and became a citizen of Thailand, I still need to have stuff over here. So I have to do this weird thing that it's the internet. It's connected. Why?
It's like
Why?
you're straddling the ocean.
Yeah.
So as long as
yeah,
we're talking
exactly.
about password authentication and two-factor, what was Forrest Gump's email password?
One Forest One.
Correct.
On a random side
You
tangent,
say that with disdain. Yeah.
why the fuck do like when you're selecting a language for any of these phones, why the fuck are they all in English or any language for that matter? Why is it Thai in Thai on the actual
It is.
phone?
It is.
That's what Cody was
It
saying.
is.
Wait, is English? No. What I'm saying is, why isn't English? So okay, so you're looking. You
Yeah,
select
but you have to
language,
get
right?
to the menu option that is language. They can't put the menu option in every language, like scrolling one after another in your phone.
That means-
So you
okay,
have
then
to
there
know.
There needs to be a universal menu button
Like that
That's what I
equals
say now.
language.
that equals.
Well,
and there needs to be something at that point.
Okay,
There's-
so what
there's
a
a way
lot
to
of
do it.
websites have, is they have up at the top, like
That's
in
what I'm saying.
Thailand, they'll have the four most common languages as flags. So they'll have a Thai flag, they'll have a Chinese flag, they'll have a Russian flag, and then they'll have a British flag, because there's more Brits here than Americans. So you just have to deal with U's and color and whatnot and REs and centre. You know, Tim doesn't have a problem with that, but for us silly Americans here. So it's still just weird and unbelievably frustrating, and I would much rather use the Authenticator as the app for everything, even though I have lost an account with it. Still, rather than having to get these damn text messages, it's a better way. Although I am really eager to see what apps Colton recommends for this, and I will share my, results on the next podcast.
Okay, I do have a question. When do jokes turn into dad jokes?
When they fall out of your mouth.
No,
When they make
become
people-
apparent.
God damn it!
Okay, when they make people make this sound. In this face expression.
So,
Christ.
do you want to know why I never tell pizza jokes? Because they're too
No.
cheesy.
What kind of cheese? Is there a specific
Mozzarella.
type?
Buffalo
Like if you have
mozzarella,
a
the
5
real
cheese
stuff.
pizza, like is it all the cheeses?
So an
or is
old
it
lady
just
asked
one?
me to check her balance at the bank, and I pushed her over.
That was funny.
Good job.
I like that.
You're a terrible person.
That one's funny.
I think if you try that software, Cody, and you do it with a VPN, you might get
Yeah.
different results.
Yeah.
You might get the option that I had.
Yeah, we'll see. And yeah, I'll test it out.
Checked with my other friend who did it as well, and he thought it was only like $2 or something for the year.
Was he
Because
also
he had a whole
Canadian?
phone number.
Do
No,
I
he's
need-
from
do I
the
need-
US.
Oh, he is. Okay.
Now,
What's up,
the thing
brah?
about some of these apps, and I'd love to just test it out, I think you can, like, if I were to call that other number you got, even though I'm in the United States, I think it would ring on your side.
Yes.
is-
Yeah, it
yeah.
does. I have
Okay.
actually tested that by calling my realtor from that Text Now number, but they were only able to give me 1-800 numbers because I stupidly put the country of Thailand of where I'm in rather than United States. So you have to answer these questions, and it makes sense
Act
now.
like you're still in the other country. That makes
Yeah,
sense.
you have to act
Don't-
like you're
don't
still
tell them
in
the
other
truth.
country.
They already know you're there.
Which,
Fuck it.
yeah, exactly.
Just don't steal any jewels. Like, well, I don't know. Did you guys hear about the? This isn't a joke, but apparently in I think it was France or something. I think there was a jewelry heist, a big one, like millions of dollars, and there were a lot of witnesses in the area that could have seen what happened, but they didn't see it because they were too interested in Jean-Claude Van Damme, who was getting some sunglasses across the street. There's like 50 people, and none of them saw what happened because they all wanted to see the dude who could do real awesome splits get some sunglasses.
Why is it
And
hard to
strangely
explain
enough-
puns to kleptomaniacs? Because they can't take everything literally.
Also true.
All right.
We're done.
I think we're done. All right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like the picture on Charlie's background.
My heart is on his left now, at least
We're
according to
just-
from my side.
We're dead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dead. All right, Tim, where can we find you?
It's Our Thai Journey on Instagram, on Facebook, and on YouTube.
Perfect. Colton.
I have my own joke for my name as well this time.
Okay.
Well, also true.
If you have
So,
ways of making you talk.
Colton Roper. I go by Seeker4761 on all the social medias. I also stream pretty regularly on twitch.tv/Seeker4761, and just put up an article on the FTC ruling about the right to repair in the United States on the Tech Pirate. It's going to be updated as that sort of develops, but nice little article. I'm actually very proud of it so far. But the joke is, if you take the square root of 4761, what do you get? Do not use a calculator.
8008.
Good guess, but it's nice. The answer is nice.
420?
69.
69.
69.
69 squared is 4761. I discovered that on
Is it?
TikTok
Seriously?
today. It is. I'm like, yes, I love it. That's the funniest fucking thing that's ever happened. Yeah. So,
Random.
Kinda interesting.
happenstance.
Okay.
just a completely
Ah.
random 4-digit number that I just randomly pick for all of my fucking usernames is, yeah, it's just funny. Charlie,
That
what
is
about you?
funny.
Where can we find you?
Well, I'm Charlie Stiffler, also known as Milnor, spelled wrong, so I always get it right. You can find me on Twitch, Facebook, YouTube, Steam, Instagram, Snapchat. Hey, do you guys know what Alexander the Great and Winnie the Pooh have in common? Their middle names. Cody?
That one's good.
You can find me trying to get as far the hell away from that guy as
Halfway
possible.
across the world is not far enough.
Clearly.
Hey Siri, what is the farthest point on the Earth from Denver, Colorado? Go ahead, continue. I'm going to find out.
Okay. Yeah. You can find me on YouTube as Striving for Failure or Striving to Fail. God, I can't even remember again.
You're failing at failing.
Striving to
Yeah,
fail.
Anyway, yeah,
Yep.
one of those. And the other one is that other Google account that I had to create. And because the other one was was taken, and I don't know if I actually took it before or if either way. Yeah, you can.
So
You
the
can find me
antipode
there.
of
And
the United
on,
States is Port-au-France, which is in the southern Indian Ocean. Good luck. You're close.
Reunion or something.
No, Port-au-France.
Okay.
Closest city to the antipode.
Oh, hold on.
Can't see.
You can also find me
What the
on
France?
Instagram as Zito Valder. And if you want to know how to spell that, just watch the end of last episode or the episode before. I forget which one. Please, somebody else. I can't remember who's gone
Okay.
and who's not.
It's Brandon.
Charlie.
I am Brandon Vader, also known as
Or Brandon.
Dracanis. Yep, because Charlie went before you and made more
Okay.
bad
Yeah.
dad
I
jokes.
To whoever
it all
stole
hurt.
my copy of Microsoft Office, I will find you. You have my word.
No, you
That
can only
one's
search
almost kind of okay.
in Microsoft now. You can't find. They took find away back when they switched from Windows XP to Windows 7, I believe.
Yep. Anyway, I'm Brandon Vader, also known as Dracanis. You can find me currently on Instagram as bvader86 and TikTok as bvader86, and that's about it. Yeah. Thanks for joining us on this episode of This Week I'm Learning. You can find us wherever you listen to your podcasts, as well as on YouTube at This Week I'm Learning. For you social media peeps out there, you can find us on Twitter at ThisTWIL. If you'd like to contact us, you can send an email to twil@techpirate.net. See you next week. Have a nice day. Bye-bye.
So I've been using these Galaxy earbuds for the last, 2 weeks or so now, and I love them. They're one thing that I just use every day, and they are awesome. Like, they still, after a while, they work themselves out of my ear, but it takes them a while to do that. But otherwise, they are pure amazing, and the noise cancellation on them is so cool. And the features, because there's like 3 different options. There's like do nothing, so no noise cancellation. And then there's noise cancellation, and then there's the opposite of noise cancellation, where it actually has a microphone and you can actually hear stuff that comes in from outside.
Yep.
Yeah, that's
So I have the Buds Plus, and they are fucking fantastic. And I almost wish that when my right ear earbud died, I almost wish that Samsung would have been like, oh, you're out of your warranty, and you're gonna have to buy a new pair, because I would have bought the Buds Pro. They were under warranty, so they sent me a new pair, and
Oh, darn the bad luck.